In this project, I want to display a scene that highlights a busy work office, but without any people working around, as it is an uncanny dream. I believe that many people who are working in the big city are suffering to this lifestyle, as amount of people are required to work overtime. Moreover, people being monitored is often part of the job, including by colleagues, manager, directors, or other people outside. I feel like a bird trapped in a cage, which is unable to leave my confinement. In other words, it highlights the sense of anti-utopian. In my dream, I frequently see these scenes that I have never encountered in reality. Yet, they present a strong relationship to reality. This feeling of familiarity brings a sense of the unease, and I don't know when it ends. A dream is a place that feels familiar to the real world. It is structured by the image I see, the order of the smell, and the experience I have had in the past. All these elements are reconstructed in my mind, creating the world that I can be both logical and mysterious. So, what is uncanny? How to highlight the feeling of uncanny by building the atmosphere of the space. Why the uncanny feeling is happened even though the objects are normal, and what is the correlationship between the uncanny experience and the visual cue by displaying paradoxical layout and color contrast in unity. All these questions are loaded in my mind and engage me to explore it. Consequently, the task in this project is to build up an uncanny scenes by using Unity engine to explain the relationship between uncanny and visual cues. I have found some research that explain the uncanny feelings. According to the paper that I have found, Benjamin and Hailing highlights that an object brings a sense of uncanny when it presents a contradicting form to compare with the usual form of the object, even though the physical attribute of the object is logical. Also, they explain that people might be irritated by the uncanny experienced when the logical and unlogical feelings are struggling. Basically, the paper is trying to use human or creature's form to experiment and explain the sense of uncanny. Consequently, that is the reason why I want to use environment and non-creature object to explore the uncanny feelings in this project. I start with a brainstorming map to roughly understand which directions that I can develop. Then, I found some artist work as my reference. Dali is a surrealism artist whose artworks produce a sense of mystery and strange by using curved lines and soft structures. The curved structure deformed the structures that they used to be, creating a sense of uncanny and blurring the boundary between reality and virtual world. Also, the empty background highlights the feeling of huge space. In addition, the creature with weird forms challenge our preconceptions and intensify the feelings of horror. In conclusion, Dallas would highlight the feeling of uncanny by displaying the curved structure, bored space, and weird structure of creatures in his art. René Magritte is one of the Belgian surrealism artists that I like, whose art will highlight patterns by displaying the same object. The way that he used on the artwork is interesting. The objects are splendid in the air, creating the sense of unease and strangeness. In addition, the objects that are splendid are those which we feel cannot be splendid in the air. I want to use this technique to suspend some object in the air to create a sense of mystery. The digital artist stereotype used pattern, contrast, and visual cue to highlight the feeling of spaciousness in the work. I'm engaged the water, light, and darkness in his image, and the contrast of the light source emphasized a feeling of unease and misery. In order to further highlight this conflict feeling, the water and the light displayed a strong contrast with the dark space. In addition, what made me feel uneasy about these pieces is the textures on the wall, ground, and ceilings. The material reminds me of swimming pool, but the texture in some cases is struggling with my impression of a swimming pool. Perhaps this is what makes these images are so charming and uncanny at the same time. The game of Limbo and Inside emphasize a dystopian style. The foggy and the cold tone colors in the background create a feeling of unease and vastness. I'm interested to explore the technique to be used in my skybox, as I want to express the idea that people are trapped in a hopeless world. In order to emphasize this feeling in my work, the saturation of the color inside the room must be different from the outside in order to create a strong contrast. I like the idea of backroom because backroom is another idea of a real-time space that exists in the parallel spaces, where the endless structure of the space is simple or complicated. The objects in these photos are familiar as we typically see in our lives, and on a physics level, they make logical sense. However, when I observe these kind of make sense photos with our own experience, I'm gradually become uncomfortable. I think the reason of why these photos make people uncomfortable is due to these factors, including the endless space, the dark focal point, and the paradoxical structures. There are many artworks that use cold color or dark color tones to design a scenes of horror, but I want to use a different approach. I believe that people currently live in an anti-utopian world designed freedom every day. This conflict feeling can be explained by the reference that I'm using. Blue represents a comfortable feeling, while pink emphasizes a romantic feeling of love. These two colors, although they show a strong contrast, create a natural feeling. This natural and peaceful feeling is what people may desire to. Therefore, I may want to use these hues to display the lighting of the office scenes and design a sense of contradiction that is not particularly frightening, but strange and unsettling. I found some office based on the studio in China that I have seen. The decoration style and the color pattern display a few contrast objects, walls, ceiling, and other facilities that don't highlight an outstanding color or style. I like the blue carpets and white walls as part of the design, as this color combined seems to be stuck in most people's mind, creating a sense of nostalgia. It brings a sense of experience and uncanny. I designed some sketch to create the scenes for my project. I refer to the constructions of the Jara Pike and add the art style inspirations from Grenade Mariti. The structure of these scenes exhibit a non-conventional designs because an office should have a standard regular shape in most people's impressions. To create a strange atmosphere, I start with the structure of the room. However, I encountered a problem with my sketch because there were too many objects and decreased the feeling of unease. I believe that the feeling of unease should happen by a few strange objects. If there are too many strange things together, It will reduce the feeling of uncanny and create a messy and disordinary atmosphere. After completing the development of the mood board and thumbnail, my following step will continue on the design, play testing on Unity, analysis, and feedback. The question that I pose to myself is, how do the structure of the room, visual cues, and the lighting irritate the feelings of uncanny from different views? As player will control the games and walk around the space. Thus, the playtesting, which target the atmosphere of the space, is important. Also, the model of the space should be done before modeling the other object. Furthermore, I will keep play testing the lighting to control the balance of uncanny and horror, as uncanny should be displayed a feeling of contradictions instead of purely horrifying scenes.